What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I've been looking at television a little bit. Don't look at television that much, but looked at some television, looked on social media, and I see that a lot of the media, the Kamedia, is in the bag for Kamala. It's been proven that about 84% of the media is left-leaning, though that is misleading because they're doing everything they can to get the true progressive candidates out of the race. Candidates such as Dr. Cornel West, Jill Stein, But anyway, they're talking about former President Donald Trump calling for Liz Cheney essentially to be unalived, right? Supposedly he said, quote, they have him saying, let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Let's see how she feels about it, when the guns are trained on her face, right? Now, when you look at that out of context, it looks absolutely horrible. And I was getting ready to go in on Donald Trump. I was getting ready to go, I don't give a shit who didn't like it. I was getting ready to go in on this clown. Like, bro, don't come up here and complain about you losing and you saying dumb shit like this. But that's why context matters. Context matters. And that's what the media does. Whether it's the La Media or in this instance, the Kamedia. That's what they do. Well, if they don't like you, and they know that the attention span is short, and they know most people don't do their own research, they take things out of context and weaponize it, and they make people, usually people who already may not particularly care for someone or maybe on the fence, they take things that people say and they put it out of context so you can rage against it. And I was going to rage against Donald Trump. I said, you know what? As bad as this sounds, let me look at it, what he said in its entirety, because almost no media outlets that I'm seeing are saying or putting up what he said in its entirety. So I listened to the clip. It's like an 8-minute clip. So Donald Trump went on one of these long rants that he goes on, it was kind of stupid. But essentially what he said was this. He talked about how Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and Bush are warmongers. And he criticized the Iraqi war, which led to the thousands of deaths of U.S. soldiers and probably killed 1 million Iraqis. All of a sudden, now that's forgiven by the same media that called George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Lynn Cheney and all these people war criminals. Remember that? Scooter Libby, all these people were war criminals. John Bolton, they were the worst people in the world. Now all of a sudden, because they don't like Trump, they cool. But I'll tell you another way the media is full of shit. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the media loved Trump. Why? Because he was critical of Bush. See, when Bush was the enemy, or McCain by default, Bush was the enemy, and Donald Trump was criticizing how the war was being prosecuted and us going over there anyway, they loved Trump. Remember, they welcomed him with open arms on The View back in 2010, 2011, 2009. But anyway, as I was saying, he was basically going on these long, stupid points he goes on about, how, he was the only one criticizing the war, and that the Bush administration threw Scooter Libby on the bus. Remember when he was president, he pardoned Scooter Libby, and he talked about how Scooter Libby was very emotional when he pardoned him. He said that Dick Cheney doesn't like George W. Bush. He said that Cheney didn't like the way that Bush prosecuted the war. He talked about how Dick Cheney, despite the fact that he was critical of Dick Cheney over the years when he was vice president, he said Dick Cheney endorsed him, I think back in 2016. He pretty much the same way. The only reason why Dick Cheney's going against him now is because Trump was critical of his daughter. He talked about how Liz Cheney was thoroughly rejected by her own party when she lost in her own primary by 40 points in Wyoming. And he talked about how Liz Cheney is a shameless warmonger, and people forgetting about that. And then he said about her abrasiveness with being, as far as going to war and not taking into account the loss of life, not taking into account how people's lives are destroyed by the war, whatever. He said, that's when he said, let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Let's see how she feels about, when the guns are trained on her face. Now, it still sounds bad, but if you put it in context of what he was talking about, it doesn't sound as bad because you know what he was saying. But see, that's the thing. When you talk, and I know this from doing videos, if you talk a lot, you can say something that if people just take it out of context and weaponize it, you sound awful. I've done it. I've said some things that if you just took it out of context out of the major point I was trying to make and take it totally out of context, it sounds awful. But the media does it all the time. Notice how the Kamedia totally ignored, for the most part, that Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage, even if you agree or not. Well, we saw it on social media, but I'm talking about the mainstream news Kamedia. They completely ignored it for the most part. Or if they did cover it, they sort of tongue-in-cheek tried to justify Joe Biden saying that. But most of them didn't report it because they remember the damage that Hillary's deplorables comment made back in 2016. But this is partially why I have such a deep-seated hatred for the media. If anybody's followed my channel over the last decade, you notice one thing that I always say is how much I hate the media. That's why, because they have agendas. They try to, instead of sometimes, look, there's a place for activism journalism, but don't put partisan political affiliation in there. If you're trying to be a truth seeker, don't try to play favorites with whether one person has your views and other one don't. Just get to the heart of the matter. Get to the truth of the matter. Try to be as fair as possible. Look, if I'm not going to be fair, I'm telling you straight up, I'm not going to be fair when it comes to LeBron Ramon James anymore or Clutch Sports. I'm telling you that. At least I'm not pretending to be fair, and I'm really not. That's why I hate the media so much. And not because I'm a Trump supporter. I don't like Trump. I don't. I know it's hard to believe, but I don't like him. The problem I have is the media try to play, the majority of the media, they try to profess to be these, they try to profess as if they're above pettiness. Oh, we're just telling it like it is. We're just reporting the news factually. No, you're not. No, you're not. And I know Fox News doesn't do it either. But remember, we used to get on Fox News because they were so overtly biased. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, CNN and MSNBC were still kind of fair. There was a liberal tilt, but they were kind of fair. And Fox News was the one that was horrible. And I used to go in them all the time. Like, damn it. Why don't you just admit, why don't you just change the name of your goddamn station from Fox News to Bush White House News Corp? But I must say, CNN and MSNBC have gotten just as bad, and with MSNBC, they're even worse. MSNBC is the worst excuse for a news organization I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, just want to put that out there. Okay? Just want to put that out there. And yeah, Tucker Carlson's a piece of crap. He's not being fair. He's clearly in the tank for Trump. Okay, we know that. I just don't like when people masquerade like they're fair and objective and they're not. But that's all I got to say in this one. Some people ain't gonna like the video. I don't give a shit. Share this video. Hit the like button. And subscribe if you haven't already. And please sign up to the Patreon if you're interested in the Patreon. Unfiltered, uncensored content only found on the Patreon as far as Too Raw for TV.